Lenten Thoughts, Day 8, Wednesday of the first week of Lent. Master, we would like you to show us a sign. Jesus Christ had just delivered a possessed man who was blind and mute. However, instead of worshipping him and recognizing his power and holiness, the scribes and the Pharisees had the insolence to say that he cast out demons only by the prince of demons himself. Yet they still approached him to ask for a sign. St. Luke tells us that they wanted to see a sign in the sky, such as the sun stopping in its course, fire descending from the clouds, or something similar. Jesus' response made it clear enough that he knew they were only tempting him as they urged him to perform yet another miracle after refusing to believe in his doctrine, despite the countless healings they had already witnessed. In the words of these scribes and Pharisees, we find two visible marks of reprobation. The first is their desire to act only according to their own will. The second is their unwillingness to believe anything unless they see it with their own eyes. To take one's own will as the rule of conduct and to take one's senses and reason as the rule of faith, these are two signs of a pharisaic and reprobate soul. First point. It is the doctrine of St. Paul that all those whom God has rejected, he has abandoned to their own will. God has rejected the wicked. Why? Because he has left them to the desires of their hearts. This is a truth that we see terribly established in the Holy Scriptures. When God resolved to destroy Pharaoh and punish his stubbornness and ingratitude, he abandoned him to his own will. When he determined to punish the Jews by giving to the Gentiles and idolaters the graces destined for them, he left them to their own will. This is why it is written that Pilate handed over the Lord to their will. As a just punishment from God, they had nothing left but their own will as the rule of their actions. The prophet Balaam had been ordered by the king of Moab to go with his messengers to curse the people of God. Balaam consulted the Lord about what he should do, and the Lord told him to take care not to listen to the king's envoys or to go with them. Balaam obeyed, but the king urged him a second time and sent rich gifts to persuade him. The prophet consulted the Lord again, but this time received a very different answer. Go, he told him, go with the king's men. What could explain this change? It was because this unfortunate prophet had incurred God's just indignation by letting himself be corrupted by greed. He was an ingrate who deserved to be rejected by God. Therefore God abandoned him to his own will. Do we not see the same thing among men? When we have done everything in our power to persuade someone not to commit an evil act, we finally give up and say in resignation, "Go, do whatever you want." This is how the angels acted toward the inhabitants of Babylon. We have done everything we could to convert them, but it was in vain. Let us abandon them to themselves. The holy man Isaac, according to St. Ambrose, had a prophetic forewarning that his son Esau would be rejected. And to prevent this misfortune, he commanded him to obey his younger brother Jacob in all things, knowing well that if Esau did not follow his own will, it would be a way to prevent his damnation. King David says that the impious and the reprobate walk in a kind of circle. This circle, says St. Bernard, is nothing other than self-will, which the impious take as the principle and end of all things. Woe to the one who walks in this fatal circle! It is entirely clear, according to the principles of theology, that man cannot be saved by his own will alone. The will of God must support the will of man. If then man's will remains entirely alone, without being sustained by God's will, it is evident that his damnation is assured. This is why Jesus Christ, who was to be the first of the predestined, warns us that he did not fulfill his own will on earth, but in all things followed the will of his Father. From this, judge, O libertines, what you should expect regarding your eternal salvation, since you profess to do only what pleases you. From this, O great ones of the world, judge what you have to fear from the justice of God, since your own will is your only rule. From this, worldly ladies, judge what reason you have to tremble, since you follow only the desires of your heart, finding nothing just except what you wish, and acting solely according to your own will. Second point, St. Augustine observes that there is a great difference between the way the Jews believe and the way the apostles do. The Jews want to know through visible signs before they believe, but the apostles, on the contrary, believe before having any tangible proof and before seeing miracles. This difference teaches us that those who are reprobate, like the Jews, do not want to believe anything unless they see it, while those who are predestined, like the apostles, believe even when they do not see. If we wanted to know before believing, says St. John Chrysostom, we would do neither. We would neither believe nor understand. The gift of understanding and insight is a reward for faith, says St. Augustine. Therefore, one should not seek to understand before believing, but should rather seek to believe before understanding. For it is written, if you do not believe, you will not understand. If one were to understand before believing, faith would be nothing but a fancy or a fantasy, for it would be useless to oblige someone to believe in something of which they were already convinced. It is precisely because it is incomprehensible that it is rightly believed. If it were comprehensible, there would be no need to believe, for it would be evident. You believe because you do not understand, and by believing you become capable of understanding. We read of the patriarch Abraham, who was to be the father of the faithful, that when he received God's command to sacrifice his son, he set out without knowing where he was going. To show us, says St. Ambrose, that those who wish to be the true children of this Father of believers must not demand reasoning or proofs in divine matters, but must believe without seeing. The Gospel tells us that when the apostles learned that Jesus Christ had risen, St. Peter and St. John ran to his tomb. St. John arrived first, but stopped at the entrance and did not enter until after St. Peter. The Holy Fathers asked why St. John did not enter first, and most of them replied that he wished to give this honor to St. Peter, who was to be the Prince of the Church. This mystery inspires another thought in me. All the Fathers have regarded the Apostle St. John as a symbol of knowledge and understanding in divine matters, since everything hidden in God was revealed to him. St. Peter, on the other hand, has always been considered the symbol of faith. St. John did not enter the tomb before St. Peter to show us that reasoning must not precede faith, but follow it. Reason must stop and not follow its own light, so as to be guided solely by faith. It was not without profound meaning that St. Paul was blinded at the very moment of his conversion by the Saviour. This was to make us understand that the first step in Christianity is to blind oneself, that is, to ignore one's own reasoning and adhere to the holy obscurities of faith. This is not what libertines do. They ask for signs, like the Pharisees in today's gospel, not in order to convert, but out of curiosity and for the pleasure of reasoning about extraordinary events. They never ask for the miracle of God changing their hearts and rescuing them from their sins. Rather, like the scribes, they demand useless miracles that do nothing for their salvation. This is clear proof that they are not seeking the means of salvation, and that it is only through deliberate malice that they remain in unbelief. If reasoning in matters of faith is a mark of reprobation, what a cause for fear it is for most Christians today. Everything is subjected to reasoning. They examine what they ought to adore. Everything that is beyond reason appears unreasonable. They believe nothing, and because they believe nothing, they fear nothing. And because they fear nothing, they plunge into every kind of vice. They ruin themselves, and they are damned. At the very least, If we are to use our reason, let us use it for our salvation. Let us use it to merit the procession of God for all eternity. Help us at gofundme.com/restore-immaculate. Thank you for your Lenten generosity. May God bless you.